Hi, this is the second lecture in operating system series. Here we will discuss operating system structures. The contents are system components, operating system services, system calls, system program, system structure, and virtual machines. The first part contains system components. Okay, the major system components present in the system are process management, main memory management, file management, IO system management, secondary management, networking, protection system, and command interpreter system. First, let us discuss what are system components. We can create a system as large and complex as an operating system only by partitioning it into smaller pieces. So, our main concern is to define well-defined pieces. Each well-defined piece should be carefully defined, that it should have inputs, outputs, and functions. Obviously, not all systems have same structure that we know. However, many modern systems share the goal of supporting the system components. So, major part of the system component is process management. First, we will discuss what is a process. Process is a programming execution. A process is an active entity. A program is a passive entity. It will be residing in the disk as file. Then whenever this program is being loaded into main memory, it becomes an active entity. So a process is a programming execution. A process needs certain resources for the completion of its task, like CPU time, memory, files, and IO devices to accomplish its task. Examples of processes are a time-shared user program such as a compiler is a process, a word processing program being run by an individual user on a PC is a process, a system task such as sending output to a printer is also a process. Actually, the resources needed are either given to the processes when it is created or allocated to it while it is running. In addition to the various physical and logical resources that a process obtains when it is created, various initialization data may also be passed along. For example, consider a process whose function is to display the status of a file on the screen of a terminal. Then we must pass the name of the file, and will execute the appropriate instruction and system goals to obtain and display on the terminal the desired information. When the process terminates, what will happen? We can reclaim the any reusable resources allotted to this process. So that is possible in case of processes. So a process is the unit of work in a system. Such a system consists of a collection of processes, some of which are the operating system processes, those that execute system code, and the rest of which are user processes, those that execute user code. All these processes can potentially execute concurrently by multiplexing the CPU among them. So, the operating system is responsible for the following activities in connection with the process management, that is process creation and process deletion for both user and system processes, then suspending and resuming processes, then providing mechanisms for process synchronization, providing mechanisms for process communication, and providing mechanisms for deadlock handling. All these techniques will be discussed in process management module in the upcoming lectures. The next system component is main memory management. We know that main memory is central to the operation of a modern computer system. Main memory is a large array of words or bytes ranging in size from 100 to thousands of billions. Each word or byte has its own address, that is, it is byte addressable. Main address is a repository of quickly accessible data shared by the CPU and IO devices. We have discussed the operation of main memory in our computer architecture subject of first semester. The central processor reads instructions from main memory during the instruction fetch cycle, and it both reads and writes data from main memory during the data fetch cycle. The IO operations implemented via DMA also read and write data in main memory. The main memory is generally the only large storage device that the CPU is able to address and access directly. For example, for the CPU to process data from disk, those data must be transferred to main memory by CPU generated IO calls. Equivalently, instructions must be in main memory for the CPU to execute them. Program to be executed, it must be mapped to absolute addresses and loaded into memory. As the program executes, it accesses program instructions and data from memory by generating these absolute addresses. Eventually, the program terminates, its memory space is declared available, and the next program can be loaded and executed. The operating system is responsible for the following activities in connection with the memory management, that is, keep track of which parts of memory are currently being used and why, whom, and decide which process to load when memory space becomes available, and allocate and deallocate memory space as needed. These are the responsibilities of main memory management unit. A file is a collection of related information defined by its creator. Commonly, file represent progress, both source and object forms and data. Data files may be numeric, alphabetic, or alphanumeric. Files may be free form, for example, text files, or may be formatted consisting of fixed fields. A file consists of a sequence of bits, bytes, lines, or records whose meanings are defined by their creators only. Concept of file is an extremely general one. The operating system implements the abstract concept of a file by managing mass storage media. That is, we will store the files permanently on the mass storage media like disk and tapes and the devices that control them. Also, files are normally organized into directories to ease their use. Okay, that we are familiar. That is, generally we will keep the similar files into a directory. Finally, when multiple users have access to files, we may want to control by whom and in what ways. For example, we have to give the privileges like read, write, append, file accessing. The operating system is responsible for following activities in connection with the file management, that is creating and deleting files, then creating and deleting directories, then supporting primitives for manipulating files and directories, then mapping files onto secondary storage, backing up files on stable non-volatile storage media. Then we'll discuss file management in detail in the upcoming lectures. IO system management. The purpose of an operating system is to hide the details of specific hardware devices from the user. For example, in Unix, the specialties of IO devices are hidden from the bulk of the operating system by the IO subsystem. The IO subsystem consists of a memory management component that includes buffering, caching, and spooling. Then external device driver interface is there. Then drivers for specific hardware devices will also be provided. Only the device driver knows the background details specific device to which it is assigned. Secondary storage management. We know that our main memory is too small to accommodate all data and programs, and whenever power is lost, the program and data will be lost. So there must be an additional storage to back up main memory. Most modern computer systems use disk as the principal online storage medium for both programs and data. Most programs, including compilers, assemblers, sort routines, editors, and formatters, are stored on a disk until loaded into memory, and then use the disk as both the source and destination of their processing. So, proper management of disk storage is of central importance to the computer system. The operating system is responsible for the following activities in connection with the disk management, like free space management, storage allocation, and disk scheduling. Discuss networking component. We have discussed a distributed system in the previous lecture. A distributed system is a collection of processors that do not share memory or a clock. Each processor has its own local memory. The processors in the system are connected through a communication network. This communication network can be configured in many ways. It takes place using a protocol. A distributed system provides user access to various system resources. The innovation of the World Wide Web was to create a new access method for the information sharing. It improved on the file transfer protocol and a network file system protocol. Then came Hypertext Transfer Protocol HTTP for using communication between a web server and a web browser. A web browser then just needs to send a request for information to a remote machine's web server, and the information can be text, graphics, links to other information is returned. This increase in convenience fostered huge growth in the use of HTTP and of the web in general. So this access to a shared resource allows computation speed up, increased data availability, and enhanced reliability. Discuss protection system. Protection refers to a mechanism for controlling access by programs, processes, or users to both the system and user resources. Resources are of primary importance here, so we have to protect the resources, and we have to allow them in a way among these processes. If a computer system has multiple users and allows the concurrent execution of multiple processes, then the various processes must be protected from one another's activities. For that purpose, mechanisms ensure that the files, memory segments, CPU, and other resources can be operated on only by those processes that have gained proper authorization from the operating system. For example, memory addressing hardware ensures that a process can execute only within its own address space. The timer ensures that no process can gain control of the CPU without eventually relinquishing control. Device control registers are not accessible to users so that the integrity of the various peripheral devices is protected. So, protection is any mechanism for controlling the access of programs, processes, or users to the resources defined by a computer system. This mechanism must provide means for specification of the controls to be imposed and means for enforcement. One of the most important system programs for an operating system is the command interpreter, which is the interface between the user and the operating system. Many commands are given to the operating system by control statesmen, that is process creation and management, IO handling, secondary storage management, main memory management, file system access, protection, and networking. In all these functions, we will provide commands for execution. When a new job is started in a batch system, or when a user logs onto a time-shared system, a program that reads and interprets control statements is executed automatically. This program is sometimes called a control card interpreter or the command line interpreter, and is known as the shell. Its function is simple: to get the next command statement and execute it. One style of user-friendly interface is the mouse-based window and menu system used in Macintosh and in Microsoft Windows. The mouse is moved to position the mouse pointer on images or icons on the screen that represent programs, files, and system functions. Depending on the mouse pointer's location, clicking a button on the mouse can invoke a program, select a file or a directory known as a folder, or pull down a menu that contains commands. More powerful, complex, and difficult to learn shells are appreciated by other users. In some of these shells, commands are typed on a keyboard and displayed on a screen or printing terminal, with the enter or return key signaling that a command is complete and is ready to be executed. The MS-DOS and Unix shells operate in this way. The must provide means for specification of the controls to be imposed and means for enforcement. One of the most important system programs for an operating system is the command interpreter, which is the interface between the user and the operating system. Many commands are given to the operating system by control statesmen, that is process creation and management, IO handling, secondary storage management, main memory management, file system access, protection, and networking. In all these functions, we will provide commands for execution. When a new job is started in a batch system, or when a user logs onto a time-shared system, a program that reads and interprets control statements is executed automatically. This program is sometimes called a control card interpreter or the command line interpreter, and is known as the shell. Its function is simple: to get the next command statement and execute it. One style of user-friendly interface is the mouse-based window and menu system used in Macintosh and in Microsoft Windows. The mouse is moved to position the mouse pointer on images or icons on the screen that represent programs, files, and system functions. Depending on the mouse pointer's location, clicking a button on the mouse can invoke a program, select a file or a directory known as a folder, or pull down a menu that contains commands. More powerful, complex, and difficult to learn shells are appreciated by other users. In some of these shells, commands are typed on a keyboard and displayed on a screen or printing terminal, with the enter or return key signaling that a command is complete and is ready to be executed. The MS-DOS and Unix shells operate in this way.